Hi, welcome to this fourth and final session of Journeying Towards Greatness, sponsored by For Dreamers Only Academy. My name is Joel Bryant, and I'm your greatness guide. And in this final session, we're going to learn how to turn moments into momentum, how to access hidden resources, and how to make our environment one of greatness, or how to create a climate of greatness. And that is so important. And in so doing, we're going to look at two particular and very specific concepts or mindsets that are going to be crucial and critical to sustaining what I call a credible pursuit of greatness. Oftentimes, people pursue things and we do things and we say we're committed to things. And a lot of times when we look at our commitments and our declarations and our determinations, a lot of times I would say that our cast or our commitments are actually incredible. Now, I don't mean that they're remarkable or that they are something that are noteworthy. I mean incredible in the definition of the word. In means not. Credible means believable. And a lot of times when people say they're committed to greatness, when you look at their practices, when you look at their passion, when you look at their commitments, when you look at their daily actions, when you look at their disposition and their attitude, when you look at their social circles, when you look at how they align and how they allot resources, then if you really are prudent and you are a student of greatness, you would recognize that that person has what you would call, or I would certainly call, an incredible pursuit of greatness. Meaning their actions and their commitments lack credibility because they don't have the kind of climate and the kind of resources and the kind of really commitment over the long term that would validate and authenticate and really to verify that they are truly engaged in the arduous pursuit of the noble ideal of a life of greatness. That's a lot of words, but it takes a lot of will to achieve and to accomplish this thing that we call greatness. So the first thing in developing momentum, you have got to be sure that your commitment to greatness can stand scrutiny. That someone who is a student and a steward of greatness would not look at your commitments, your resources, your environment, and they would deem your commitment incredible. Means it's not authentic. It's not valid. Which means if it's not credible, then it's probably cosmetic. Which means you have the habits of a hobbyist. See, when our commitment to greatness is not credible, or when it's incredible, it's because we usually have the habits of a hobbyist. What does a hobbyist do? That person likes to spend their spare time tinkering around in the garage or painting, whatever the activity, it doesn't matter. What it is, the difference is they approach the activity as a spare time pursuit to renew their soul. But when you're committed to greatness, it is not about your spare time. It's about your real time. It's about your mean time. That you use all the time that you have to equip, acquaint, and to appropriate those skills and abilities and develop those more thoroughly so that your pursuit of greatness is actually credible, not incredible, not lacking validity and veracity, and can't stand the test and the proof of those people who would say, let me see what you're doing. Let me see what you've done. Let me see your intentions and let me see your attention. And then that person would grade your greatness paper and say, you know what? You have the desire. I commend even your interest and your inclination, but honestly, you have the habits of a hobbyist. So we've got to be sure as we begin and maintain our journey towards greatness that we don't allow the habit of a hobbyist to hinder our pursuit of greatness. We don't just use our spare time, use all of our time. Now, of course, I'm not talking about not being with your family and those things that you have to nurture, those kind of relationships. But what I'm talking about is making sure that you do not give yourself permission to be passive toward your pursuits. You can't even allow other people to give you permission to be passive toward your pursuits. Sometimes people will say, you're working too hard. You've done enough. And all that may be true for them, but you have to ask yourself, is that true for me? Have I truly done enough? Have I satisfied my own need and my own threshold for labor, for action, and for effort, that I'm satisfied with my activities? And if you aren't, you have got to maintain and sustain your pursuit. Because if not, what will happen is your pursuit of greatness will become incredible. Which means when you meet people who are really committed to greatness, who put in the time, the energy, the money, the late nights and the early mornings and the weekends, that person very quickly can assess and surmise whether or not you're truly sincere in your commitment to greatness. And that's why great people don't invest their resources in people who say they want greatness, but they can't see that path and that pattern in their life. So when we're committed to greatness, there's a pattern. It's not just passion. There is also a pattern. There should be a pattern in our life that allows other people to see that I have a track record. I've been doing this for a while now. I'm committed. That's just like a reference, right? When you go to a job, they want to see what you've done in the past. Have you done this particular task in the past? Is this task, has it been a part of your pattern in the past? And if it has, then they know that they're hiring a credible employee. Someone with the ability, skills, aptitudes, and experience to do the job at a level of efficiency and proficiency and even mastery that every employer wants today, especially in this hyper-competitive economy. So let me summarize this first element. We're talking about how to sustain momentum, turn moments into momentum, how to accelerate our pace, and how to access hidden resources. And that is all dependent upon our commitment to not having the habits of a hobbyist, that we use all of our time and our energy and our resources and our resourcefulness to be sure that we are creating the kind of atmosphere, the kind of environment that is indicative of a commitment to greatness. Not just interest, not just passion, but passionate practice that is sustained despite all the contingencies that seek to contain and even to contaminate us, to make us begin to lessen and loosen our resolve and our commitments. And that is so important. You've got to be able to be committed and decisive amid those moments and those situations that we all are going to encounter and that will occur in our lives unforeseen. So be decisive. Let me give you a definition of the word decide. We think it means to make a decision, and that's true. But when you look at the what we call the etymology or the origin of the word decide, it comes from a Latin word decir, D-E-C-I-R, and it actually means to cut off. See, when you decide for greatness, you cut off every other possibility. You cut off the possibility of compromise with average and definitely mediocrity. And see, a lot of people, when you look at their habits, they really haven't decided for greatness. Why? Because they have not cut off every other possibility, every other course, every other path. I think I read somewhere, and I believe this was Julius Caesar, and I may be wrong, but you'll understand the principle. And this was also said of Napoleon as well, that when they would go to war, go to battle, they would sail to the enemy's shore, and they would get off the ship, and then Caesar or Napoleon would proceed to have and order the ship to be burned. Now, what is that about? They were essentially saying, if we don't win, we don't leave this island alive. There is no retreat. There is no, well, let's come back and get them again tomorrow. Either we win or we die. And it's amazing how hard somebody will fight when they don't have any other options. I had a friend, and I think I may have said this before. I grew up with him, and he fought Mike Tyson in the 80s. And it lasted about 2 minutes, because after that, Mike Tyson knocked him out. When I saw him several years later, I asked him, I said, did you train for the fight? I mean, did you work out for the fight? He said, Joel, it's a difference between fighting a sparring partner and fighting somebody with ambitions and aspirations of being the heavyweight champion of the world. He said, my sparring partner could never fight me with the intensity and the tenacity that Mike Tyson did. Because that sparring partner, when he got through, he's going to take a shower, go home to his wife, and go out to eat or go hang with his friends. But Mike Tyson at the time was obsessed with becoming the best fighter in the world. He had no other recourse. Fighting was his only way out in his perception. And so I want to encourage you, and when you decide for greatness, you cut off every other possibility, every other option, every other opportunity, every other avenue that will cause you to say, you know what? If this doesn't work out, I can always be average. I mean, let's face it, to be average, you just need to wake up in the morning. I mean, I'm not disparaging average, but I'm just saying to you very seriously that if you're really committed to greatness, I've said before, you have got to have the disposition for the dimension that you want to enter. And great people, those who achieve greatness and sustain their greatness, they have an attitude where they cut off every other possibility except for greatness. Failure is not an option. I just talked about Napoleon and Caesar burning their ships and told the men, either we fight or we die. I think of another popular individual in our culture, maybe some kind of icon to some degree, and the young generation will appreciate him. His name is Curtis Jackson. Okay, but most people know him as 50 Cent. He began as a rap artist and has since become a mainstream, extremely wealthy businessman who's worth about $300 million as I speak. And 50 Cent's first, I guess, major album or CD, we would say today, was entitled simply, Get Rich or Die Trying. Think about it now. Curtis Jackson's mantra, his motive and his motor, his mission in life, based upon that album name, was Get Rich or Die Trying. Now, we can debate the ethics and the morality of rap and all that, and that's for another discussion, but his mantra or his motto is the mentality or the psychology that it's going to take when you decide that you're going to achieve greatness. He didn't leave 50 Cent left in the room for no other option. He didn't say get rich or go work in corporate America. Get rich or go back to school. Now, I'm not disparaging those things. I'm simply trying to contrast and compare Curtis Jackson's motto and his mantra to illustrate and to magnify the mentality and the mindset of a person who has committed themselves to an unbridled pursuit of greatness. When I say unbridled, I don't mean unprincipled, because nothing can be great that's not right over the long term. So I want to encourage you, and I want to ask you, have you truly decided for greatness? Because what will happen is this: when you decide for greatness, you know what happens? You get momentum. Because when you meet great people, when you meet other people who are not even great, people like enthusiasm. They love people who are committed and conscientious and excited and animated about their aspirations, because usually a lot of people aren't that way about their lives. And so they find enthusiasm refreshing. And what will happen is this: those people, in some small, sometimes often insignificant way, will say something, do something, give something, show you something. It'll be just enough to give you more energy to sustain your pursuit. And just that moment that you had the interaction, that moment begins to escalate and accelerate your momentum. And what happens then, now because you're committed and they respect that and they find it refreshing, now they say, I've got a friend, this may be a dead end, but he does ABC. Let me give you his number. Let me call him for you. I'll shoot him an email. What is that doing for you? All because you decided for greatness. Now you begin to access hidden resources. Because I will tell you this: nobody succeeds without the help of other people. I always say this: do not believe the lie of the self-made individual. It makes a great story. It's a great national narrative that's wedded and embedded in our mythology of the rugged individualism. But nobody in the world gets successful without the support of other people. And so, by determination and by being and not having the habits of a hobbyist and being committed and by cutting off every other possibility, and then we begin to be excited and enthusiastic, and we talk to other people and they find that refreshing, then from that moment, from that encounter, we get enthusiasm because they tell us something, they share something with us that turns that moment into a little bit more momentum. And then they may recommend you to somebody, or they recommend somebody to you who you can call and use their name, and now you're accessing hidden resources. Something that you never thought and knew existed. Now you have a first name recommendation to talk to that person. And what that will do, the third part of our session today, that allows you to accelerate your pace. Because now what would have taken 6 months takes 6 weeks. All because you decided for greatness. You cut off every other possibility. That is so huge. See, too many people have too many options. And I love being in America. I love having options. It's the staple of our culture. But when you're talking about greatness, because it is so difficult and requires a lot of concentration and devotion, you have got to decide that this is the one thing in my life that I'm not going to accept an option for. Will Smith, of course, the great actor, and we all know from major motion pictures, he said his key to success was this: 2 things. He said, I'm not the smartest guy. I'm not the best looking guy. He said, I will never ever allow you to outwork me. And the second thing Will Smith said is this: he said, don't have a plan B. Now, how often are we told by our cultural commentators to have a plan B? Am I saying not having life insurance and car insurance? Of course not. Things are going to happen. But Will Smith's mentality is this, and I agree with it. He said, when you have a plan B, it distracts from plan A. Now, it's up for you to decide that. You can always say, well, if this doesn't work out. But first of all, why are you giving energy to the possibility that it may not work out? If it's not going to work out, just don't let it work out. Do the actions that would cause it to work out, but you can always comment on it if it doesn't work out. Why give your energy to forecasting and narrating the possibility that it may not work out? That's with anything in life. See, the second part of this today's session, we talked about decision making, deciding for greatness, cutting off every other possibility. The second part is you have to be disciplined. Do you know the discipline it takes to maintain your conversation? I said in an earlier broadcast somewhere, I said great people make a habit of keeping the circumstances out of their attitude. I said that great people don't just vent, they invent. See, ordinary people, average people vent. They talk about how they feel and they fuss and they complain and, they always, explaining why life isn't going their way. And that venting does not contribute to their vision. And see, this is the thing that you've got to get the discipline to work on. And it is a discipline. And so don't get discouraged if you don't do it on a consistent basis. Just make a habit of getting better. Don't try to get there. Just get better at getting better. It takes a lot of discipline to keep your circumstance out of your attitude. If venting doesn't contribute to your vision, then don't vent. Choose rather to invent. Find a way to have creative dialogue. If I'm going to vent, I always try to listen to what I'm saying, listen to the person that I'm venting to, and to see if there's some insight in my disgust or my discontent that I can utilize to turn my venting into an invention of another way to make my circumstances more tolerable and more beneficial. And then over time, you will learn how to keep your circumstance out of your attitude. That is the power and the value of discipline. It is the conscientious ability to be present and perceptive to yourself and to evaluate whether these words, these actions, this activity, this intention, is it contributing to my overall goal of committing myself not just to the pursuit Not just journeying towards, but the acquisition and the enjoyment of greatness. That's what this is about, people. I really want to encourage you because I truly understand at a very visceral level what it's like to just always feel like, I'm on the verge. If I just could meet the right person, if I just had the right break, well, you know what? Sometimes you're going to have to make your own breaks. See, when we decide for greatness, when we have the discipline for greatness, you know what we give up. I say it like this, right? During I guess Easter and that time of year, we have Lent, and also Islam, and every religion has this religious holiday, this religious period where the devotees, those people who practice that religion, they tend to give up something on behalf of the God that they believe in as a show of their commitment to him or her. And one of the things that I did years ago, I decided years ago, and I have to renew this decision on a daily basis, especially when I face disappointment, is I gave up giving up. Think about that. Those of you who believe in God and you try to order your life by the commandments and precepts and principles that's outlined in what you consider sacred text. And so Lent comes around and you give up television, or you give up chocolate, or you give up gossiping, or, we all give up something because none of our lives are the examples and the exemplars that we would like them to be if we're honest and we have self-knowledge. But I want to ask you, and I want to encourage you, and I want to remind you that if you're going to achieve greatness, you have got to give up giving up. Think about it. See, we don't give up all at once. We give up very subtly and gradually and in ways that are imperceptible to everybody except for the soul. Even our own eye will deny that we've given up. We'll look at you, say, well, I'm still getting up every morning. I'm still, and you'll name the activities that you used to engage in, and you're still engaging in those activities. But what happens is you no longer expect greatness. It's like a team that's down by 10 and it's a minute left, and they have no timeouts. Another team has the ball and 3 timeouts. They'll still play, but you watch their body language. All 5 players are not playing with the same intensity. Maybe 3 of those players believe that we can still win, but 2 of those players might say, you know what, it's only 59 seconds, 60 seconds. They have 3 timeouts, we have none, and they have the ball, and we have no more fouls to give. This game is over. And so they'll go through the motions, but they're not committed to the mission of trying to set a precedent by coming back in 10 points with 60 seconds, which can be done. All that to say this, no matter what stage or state you're in your life, it's not too late to win. You can't win in that field that once had your focus, but you can win in another field. You can, instead of venting and even inventing, you can reinvent yourself. That's why I said there's no gracious without patience. See, without patience, without patience, I will forfeit and sabotage my own success. And that's why it's so critical that I begin by deciding for greatness. That I cut off every other possibility. I give myself no other options in relation to my dreams and my goals and my aspirations. And then I begin to use my daily activities to develop my discipline. Watch how I refer to my circumstances. Watch how I refer to my possibility for change. Use everything in my environment to support and encourage my pursuit. To keep my energy and my excitement. To be authentic. To constantly evaluate myself to make sure that I'm not slowly and unconsciously accepting the habits of a hobbyist. Because I want to know how to turn moments into momentum. I want to know how to access hidden resources. And I want to know how to accelerate my pace. And if I make a decision for greatness and cut off every other possibility, if I don't have a plan B, if I burn my ship, so to speak, like Caesar and like Napoleon, or if I have the mantra of 50 Cent, get great or die trying. If I have that kind of disposition and that kind of relationship with myself, do you know what will happen? Here's a third benefit that I'm going to talk about at length in another session, probably the second session of the next Journey Towards Greatness class. You will develop your intuition. And I can tell you this, without some degree of a developed intuition, it is going to be very difficult to achieve greatness, because it's not all rational. It's not irrational, but at a certain level, it transcends the rational. And that means we have to make a right use of our intuition. And the word intuition, by the way, simply means to be tutored from within, to be taught from within. So you can have all the teachers, all the speakers, you can have all those people with a reputation for being able to maximize human performance. But people cannot give you intuition. They can show you how to develop it. They can make you aware of it. They can help you to be better in cooperating with it. But you have got to become conscious and conscientious of the ways and the wooings of intuition. And with discipline and a decision and the right use of intuition, that thing that you just do because there's no rational reason for the action, but something just said do this, or you just feel led to do this action and you have no rational cognitive reason for doing that. Sometimes that is the very thing that thrusts us into another dimension of life. So I want to encourage you. Develop your discipline. Watch your speech, your thought. Don't ever lose the bounce in your being. We said it when I was a child, having pep in your step. See, when you have that type of disposition, people pay attention to you. They're like, well, who is that guy? Why is he walking like that? Why is she talking like that? Why is she always dressing like that? I had a student when I taught at UNC Charlotte. He dressed in a suit and tie every single day just to come to class, because he did not want to be taken like the average run-of-the-mill college student. And because he dressed that way, dressed like I say, like an adult, I treated him differently from my other students. I shared things with him that I didn't really share with my other students, because they never gave me the permission to suggest that they wanted more other than what was on the syllabus. But with this student, we had conversations after class, and I shared things with him that helped him to be better and more able at what he wanted to accomplish. That's a discipline. Can you imagine getting up every day to go to a college campus where even the professors most of the time don't wear shirts and ties, and a student does? But that was a discipline that he had imposed upon himself, because he had a vision for where he was going. And he had decided that his dress was an intimate and an integral part of that. So I want to encourage you as I close this session, which was entitled, for a recap, Accelerating the Climb, turning moments into momentum, learning how to access hidden resources, and learning how to accelerate our pace. We do that when we make a qualitative decision for greatness. We cut off every other possibility. We burn our ships. We say, I'm going to get rich, I'm going to get great, or I'm going to die trying. Then we have the discipline to manage our speech, our thought life. We make sure that our diligence is one that has expectation. That today, see, real dreamers, great people get up every day thinking, you know what, today is my day. They don't drag all of yesterday's failures and fears. They say, you know what, today is my day. See, that's what I mean by expectation, not hope. See, hope is enough to get you started. But if you're going to achieve greatness, you have to move beyond hope into expectation. See, expectation is the magnet that rightly managed begins to magnify your life, and all of a sudden, people who never saw you before begin to pay attention to you. And those people become your momentum. They become your source of hidden resources, and they become crucial and a catalyst in helping you to accelerate your pace. So I want to thank you for listening to this tape today. I'm excited and I'm tired. But I want to encourage you, because one thing I know, I want to encourage you to practice Lent, not just during your holy day or your holy season. Give up giving up. Give up forecasting before you finish your defeat. Move beyond hope into expectation. Don't have a plan B when it comes to your dreams and your goals. Create an environment by reading about other people. Find out their stories. Do this on a daily basis. This is how you create a climate of greatness. Because I said before, most of us, I was not raised in an environment where greatness was a requirement. I just had to go to school and do well and not get in trouble. And really that's good and that's commendable. But see, my parents didn't have the opportunities that I have today. But one thing they put in me, they said, baby, never give up on your dream. Dream big and work hard. And that was enough for me to begin to incubate and to inculcate a desire for a bigger and a better life. And over time, I've learned how to create in my own life an environment where greatness is a requirement. And so I want to encourage you as I end with this poem. The road to success is narrow and long. Many begin the journey, yet few press on. Along its paths are many who have fallen, whose goals slipped away along with their calling. But for those small few who are willing to plod, who believe in the dream because they believe in God, these are they who are destined to reach life's highest mountain and scale its peak. Thank you for watching. I encourage you. I believe in you. Message me, Joel at joelbryant1.com. Let me help you. Let me coach you. Let me encourage you as you and I both make the arduous ascent to the summit of greatness. Until next time, have a greatness week, because you can.